Welcome back, guys, to Apollo Justice, Ace Attorney. It's going to take a while for me to get used to saying that, as we are now in a trial where our old attorney, Phoenix Wright, is a defendant. Murder happened at the Borscht Bowl Club, with a grape juice bottle being smashed down on Shady Smith's head. Did Phoenix do it? Of course he didn't. But how do we defend him? That's the real question, as we now have testimony from an eyewitness, Olga Orly, or O'Reilly, as we're going to probably somehow keep saying stuff. A lovely Russian waitress who loves to take pictures. Let's start. That night, customer asked me to deal cards for game. It was cold. Both players played with hats on. Duh! The victim, he plays the whole time with his hand on Locket on his neck. Then last hand is done. But something terrible has happened. Duh! That man flew at victim and is strangling him to death.
Incidentally, who won the game?
Isn't it obvious? The winner was the victim, Mr. Smith.
Objection!
That's ridiculous. Because Mr. Wright can't lose. Yeah, that's the reason. Justice? Maybe you can come up with a more legitimate objection. But he hadn't lost in 7 years.
Take it from me, kid. It happens. I didn't lose a case my first 7 years as prosecutor, either. Incidentally, I have some evidence here. These are the poker chips as they lay the very moment of the crime. The hand and chips on this side belong to the defendant, Mr. Wright, of which we have, well, pretty much nothing. 2 pairs, 7s and aces. The other side, however, looks like it's a full house. Those on the far side belong to the victim, Mr. Smith.
Chips, you say?
Duh, I mean yes. Imagine that poker is war. Your hand is your army and the chips are the spoils.
I know that. After all, in my youth, I was known as the poker head of courtroom number 3. Wasn't it all like, oh, this is illegal gambling, you shouldn't do that?
I think he means poker face.
Looking at this picture, it does seem that most of the chips are on the victim's side of the table.
Chip photo has been added to the court record.
Very well, the defense may cross-examine the witness.
But who's to say who's been seated on each... Well, I guess the victim was found on that side. Who's to say the cards weren't laid down afterwards or something like that? We did see in the inner monologue, the start, one person did have a full house. That night, customer asked me to deal cards for game. It was cold. Both players played with hats on. Duh! The victim, he plays the whole time with his hand on Locket at his neck. Yes, we know this. And last hand is done, but something terrible has happened. Duh! That man flew at the victim and is strangling him to death. Now, the thing is, if the man flew at the victim and is strangling him to death, you kind of expect, this is the one why I skipped through this to here, the table to not be as fine anyway. Plus, he wasn't strangled to death. He was hit over the head with a bottle. This is the obvious moment. You know what I mean? I mean, the locket is interesting too, so we should probably press a bit more. Why you got it cold in the Borscht Bowl Club? I guess it doesn't look like the warmest room. Let's start pressing from the start. You were dealing cards. Do you do this often? Duh, I am doing this. If customer wishes it, I serve anything. Borscht, cards, more borscht. It is my work. What about the porcini? I think that's the thing that goes with it, isn't it?
It's good to hear of a place that hasn't forgotten the meaning of service.
Welcome you to Borscht Bowl Club, where borscht is as warm as the waitresses. Thank you for not handing out flyers during the cross-examination. It was cold. Both players played with hats on. Duh. It's already April. How could it be cold? At Borscht Bowl Club, we have pride on authentic rustic Russian restaurant theme. Outside it is city in spring, but inside it is always as cold as Mother Russia. No way am I going there. Nor am I. Thank you. Bye-bye. When it comes to hot borscht, cold is best seasoning, duh? I guess so. In a way, thinking, a manner of speaking. Yeah. The victim, he plays hot time with his hand on Locket at his neck. What is that locket? His locket? I believe it was good luck charm, duh? He gripped it many times as he played that night.
Yes, he must have felt as though it might carry him to the moon and the stars. Though if it was small enough to fit around his neck, it wouldn't have much lift.
The defense would like a clarification. This is a locket we're talking about, not a rocket. I mean a pendant with a picture in it, right? Not a rocket?
Of course, I knew that. It was probably a pendant shaped like a rocket. That's why she called it that.
No, a locket's a locket. Doesn't matter what shape it. It's considered bad form to poke fun at the hard of hearing in our society. Hard of hearing or hard of understanding? We'll never figure this out, will we?
So, what happened next?
Prosecutor Payne. Then, last hand is done. But something terrible has happened, Da. Oh, I got to press that as well. I want to skip forward to that last one, though. We know what terrible thing happened. A fight, a murder, that kind of thing. Something terrible?
Eek!
Defense will refrain from needless shouting.
Sorry. I need to seriously reconsider this vocal training thing.
Now, Miss Orly, can you tell us what happened?
Oh, I was so frightened. Da, I trembled with fear. That man flew at the victim and is strangling him to death. To death? But that's not how he died. But the defendant would never do such a thing. Well, that's not a good defense to start off with. We can tell you're a rookie. God. Eek. That's the person saying eek during the crime scene thing, so maybe she was there.
Well, now I can't say I've ever heard the defense try this tactic.
If possible, please, refrain from embarrassing me.
Still, why would anyone do something like this over a game of poker?
Perhaps it is because the defendant has lost game?
Yes, a crushing defeat for a man undefeated. So it always is with men like him. Winners make sore losers. Oh, how the mighty fall.
Go ahead. I believe you know what it is you need to do. Right, sir, leave it to me. There were only 3 people in the room at the time of the murder. The victim, Shady Smith, Mr. Wright, and if Mr. Wright isn't the killer... I've got you now, Orly. Yeah, it had to be her, didn't it? So we're presenting to the last bit. This is where I'm probably getting it wrong, because it just seems so literal that I think, oh wait, what happens when I press this button? Is this like an actual... Ah! Save my game during the thing? There's a save game button? Okay. There was a start button before. Start button was fine for that. I was just curious and randomly blanked out the screen. That button down there is a save game button. Right. We're probably presenting because we know that she didn't get strangled to death. That's just not how he died. That just sounds like a fight. Plus, the table wasn't even disturbed. It's a bit weird that. Bottle's on the victim's side. Just looks like a bit of a fake. Plus, you don't know if the big chips actually stand for more money or the red chips stand for more money. Could be that this side is winning. Thinking about it. Wait a second. Did I say it was 2 pairs? It's not. They're both full houses, but ones have aces with kings, so they'd win naturally. What an idiot. What an idiot. Right. Look like they're having fun, and they look like they're pally and friendly. Though the bottles of grape juice are there. If he were to take them out of the wine rack, he'd naturally get them, the fingerprints, those way round. So, well, that makes sense there for some information too. But obviously we're doing this, aren't we? Death caused by single blow to forehead. Objection! He says, getting it wrong. Oh really? Strangled, you say? That's odd. Da, normal customers only talk on Bosch. No, I mean this report shows that the victim died of a blow to the head. Knack! Miss Orly, really now? Did you witness the crime? Eee! Good catch.
Looking at the picture, it doesn't seem like he was hit. He's still wearing his hat and everything.
Yet it is a fact that he was hit, Your Honor. Here's a photo we took of the victim with his hat off during our investigation.
Well, that's quite shocking, isn't it? This head certainly was hit.
Sometimes I think your head's been hit at some point in time. Crime photo number 2 has been added to the court record. But I've seen it happen.
Defendant, he lunged at victim, his neck.
Oh really? Miss Orly? I think I've caught you in your own lie this time. Justice, I admire your enthusiasm, but perhaps you should think this through once more. What do you mean? I found a contradiction. There's one thing in a testimony that troubles me.
Very well. It seems we should continue the cross-examination.
There's such a thing as thinking too much. This horse is dead. I stopped beating it. There's such a thing as thinking aloud too much too. So it really was them whispering and thinking aloud this whole time. That night, customer asked me to deal cards for game. We're still looking at some other bit with it, but now... That's it. The lack of a locket. What happened to the locket? Is that how he was strangled? So the person grabbed for the locket? That doesn't help us prove anything apart from guilt, maybe? So we're missing the locket here. Do I press or straight to present? That's always the question now that we got the extra information. Objection! We're just gonna go for it. You know, there was one curious part in the testimony, just like Mr. Gavin said. But what does it mean?
Mr. Justice, would you care to explain what it is you're thinking so intensely about?
Recall the testimony, Your Honour. The victim played with his hand on Locket at his neck, I believe she said.
I hope you aren't about to raise an objection to the witness's grammar.
No, but look at this photograph. Do you see a locket on the victim's neck? Well done, Justice. I'm impressed. I knew you'd be able to handle this. But what does it mean?
If we are to believe this witness's testimony as is, then the locket disappeared following the victim's death.
Lockets don't just disappear, Your Honour. It's quite simple when you think about it. If a locket is gone, someone must have taken it off, no? Taken it off? Wait, you don't mean... The defendant wasn't strangling the victim at all. He was taking off his locket. Wouldn't that explain it?
Ah! Egg? Defendant, what do you have to say to this? Say.
Yes?
I just noticed this, but... You have something hanging around your neck, don't you?
Oh? You mean this? Yes, it's a locket. With a photograph inside. A photo of my daughter.
Come again? Phoenix, you dog. Mr. Wright, you have a daughter?
We confirmed it at the time of the arrest. The picture in the locket is indeed Mr. Wright's daughter.
So Mr. Wright has a locket too? Why don't I buy this is just a coincidence?
Well now, if the results of this poker game led to the murder, perhaps we should hear a bit more about the outcome of the game.
Further testimony won't really be necessary. It's clear the defendant lost badly.
Something's up.
Miss Orly, you will testify to the court about the game played between the victim and the defendant.
Alright then, serious competition that was present that day. The game began with 3,500 points in chips for each man. House chips come in two sizes, small and large. The one who's winning, it was victim. For last hand, defendant play with all chips on table and lose. The moment loss was decided, defendant grabs bottle from table and...
Whamoosh. Indeed, looking at this picture, it does seem to be a one-sided game,
dependent on what the values of the chip really are.
As the court knows, poker was the defendant's life. Failure must have been a bitter pill to swallow.
Ah, how many times have I heard these words? I done it in a fit of anger, Your Honour, and now I regret what I done. A common tale, but true.
He thinks the judge watches too many old court movies. Mr. Wright said he hasn't lost in 7 years. This testimony must be wrong. Plus, we can't see what the bet was, etc. What was the bet? What was the bet? These things matter. Were they all in? I don't know. It could have been a non-game winner. Well, we can assume it was, really. The game began with 3,500 points in chips for each man. Are those the usual starting points? Were any special rules used? Wait. I'm right! I'm right! Oh, I was just messing around. Right. So if it's 3,500 points for each person, that means it's 7,000 chip points total. Now, if you take the big chips, if they were representative of, say, 1,000, then there's 10 black chips on the table. That's 10,000. That's way over the value. If they were 500, then they're 5,000, right? So what does that, would that make the red chips where there is only 6 of them? So to make it up to another 2,005, well, no, it's not, it's 2,000 of value, 6 of them, 2,000 divided by 6, it's indivisible. Unless you're using really weird, it's not indivisible, but you know what I mean. It's not going to be a set value like 100 or 200 or 250. I mean, 250 only gets you 1,500, 300 gets you to 1,800, but then it wouldn't work. It'd be some weird middle ground to get there. Unless, of course, you turn the other way around. The red chips are 1,000s, and the big chips are 100s. Then it equals up to 7,000. I don't know if they had any, if there's any more simpler math on it, but usually they're done by like 10s or 100s with 0 values at the end, not with you could play smaller, but look at the chips on the table. This was interesting. Is this going to be a point? Are those the usual standing points? Were any special rules used? Indeed, we need to find out more. No, not special. Usual game, usual rules.
If each man began with 3,500 points, then the total would be, exactly 7,000 points.
Please, this isn't calculus. It's not even long division. See, he knows I'm onto something here. This is the point. House chips come in 2 sizes, small and large. Do they now? Are the chips in this photo all the chips that were used? Please say yes. Da, of course. Something's fishy with these chips. Should I press harder? Yes. The values. Maybe you could explain a bit about these chips. Explain? What is there to be explained?
Poker chips are poker chips. They're not fish and chips. Not a chip off the old block. Not a motorcycle cop. Not a...
Oh, he's gonna... He had his flow going. Why did you interrupt?
Not a motorcycle cop. Not a chop of the rock. There.
Thanks. Now that I've pressed her, I'd better ask something. What are these chips worth? Are they in dollars or rubles even? Yet. As I've been saying before, it was game, not gambling. Hard perhaps for capitalists to understand. Yeah, but we're talking about, like, value as in numerical value, not necessarily... Hard perhaps for capitalists to understand. 2 types of chip, 100-point chip and 1,000-point chip. Yeah. It is not money, da? Well, I can't notice that they both played full houses, but I can notice other things. Justice. Sir! Don't you find her comment interesting? In more ways than one, sir. I'd have it added to her testimony myself.
Well, does the defense want the witness to add to her testimony?
Yes. Yes, I do think this deserves further scrutiny. Add it to the testimony. I wish I knew where I was going with this. I know completely.
Very well, witness, if you would be so kind.
Da, Your Honor. One kind of chip is worth 100 points, other kind is worth 1,000. 2 kinds in all. Let's press this some further then. Get more information. Mr. Gavin said this testimony is important. To be honest, I have no idea why.
Mr. Justice, do the court a favor and think of what you want to say before raising your hand. I am not in kindergarten.
Sorry, I'm fine. I better think of something to ask. And quick. The 2 types of chips. Da? The small ones are 100 and the big one's 1,000. Right? Right, of course.
Ha! Don't waste our time while I do my L'Oreal advert.
Product placement.
Is that all?
Not really. No product placement. Yeah.
Oh.
Great, Mr. Gavin made me stop her and now I'm the one who looks dumb. Oh, Justice. Please try not to embarrass me like that. Huh? Who? Me? There's a clear contradiction in the information you have in your hands. What? It's a simple matter of calculation. Go on, try it. We're not in kindergarten after all. Calculation? There's the amount of chips on the table. Now, I'd have thought we're presenting to this, not to this. Which is why I'm confused now. I mean, we can see clearly who was winning. So he had 2,900 and Phoenix had 4,100. If that is the placement of the table. So no matter what, the game wasn't lost. The game was still going. So I still really think we're not presenting to this one. The logical one to present to would be this one. The one who was winning. Duh, it was victim. Let's press this. You're telling me that Mr. Wright, undefeated for 7 whole years, was losing? Duh, it must have been the most unlucky day for him. I am glad I did not take up a picture of him. It would break camera, certainly. The chips, they went always to victim's side of table.
So you're telling us it was a one-sided game?
This is blatant lies. Duh, one-sided, and... For last hand, defendant play with all chips on table and lose. But again, that makes no sense. But I think all this is, like, bluffing, isn't it? If he plays with all chips on hand, he can't lose the game. Where am I presenting? I'm sure I'm presenting to the thingy. Last hand? It was largest points of any hand. The defender's hand, it was excellent. He tried to use it to take victory from behind. It wasn't behind.
It appears that both the defendant and the victim's hands are in this picture. That is truly an excellent hand. However, so is the victim's. One with highest number wins.
Ah, so defendant loses. Bit of switch over.
The victim, Mr. Smith, had a stronger hand than the defendant and crushed him. I believe that explains what occurred next.
Once cards laid down on table, it happened. The moment loss was decided, defendant grabs the bottle from table and... Smashy smashy? I think it's this. Because this proves that that's not the case. But I could probably get punished based on the fact I got a testimony that makes it sound like I should present to that. Objection! You're sure it was the victim who won? Okay. Confirmation. Absolutely sure?
It seems our new attorney is a bit confused. A glance at the picture is enough to tell you who won, if you're not in kindergarten.
Just for safety's sake, could you explain the problem to the court?
Of course, Your Honor. In this photo, I see small chips and I see large chips. Tell me, which were worth 1,000 points?
Why, the big ones, of course. Duh.
Oh, I thought so too. But then the totals don't add up.
The totals?
Let's review what the witness told us. Each man started with 3,500 points in chips, and the combined total value of the chips was 7,000 points.
Yes, if my calculations are correct. Let's see. 3 plus 1, carry the 5.
They are, Your Honor. Now, look at this photo that allegedly shows all the chips. If the big chips are worth 1,000 points and the small chips are worth 100, and you add them up, how much is it? Just go the other way round. It would have made it more obvious. Do it yourself. You aren't in kindergarten, are you? 10,600 points. The chips don't add up. This clearly contradicts the witness's testimony.
But why? How could this be?
Exactly, Justice. Now that you know the what, you must determine the why. Right. There's only one possible way to explain this contradiction. The chip count was wrong. Both were right. Huh? I don't actually... No. Both were right in terms of... this. We know the starting points were right. We know the chip count there is right. Both were right technically. It's based on the fact that the guys got it the wrong way around. What's there on the table is correct. Phoenix is winning. Each man began the game with 3,500 points. If all the chips are indeed shown in this photograph, then there can only be one answer.
Well, what is it?
The value of the chips was the other way round. Yeah, we know that. She told us.
What?
Want to know what I think? The small chips are worth 1,000 points, not the big ones.
Madness! Utter madness!
I guess if we present it to the other thing, we might actually get a different kind of... Because she said? Because I presented to this one, maybe I got a different talking string. Seems a bit weird, doesn't it?
Show me that photograph of the chips again. There are 6 small chips and 10 large chips. Why, that does make 7,000 points when you add them up.
Excellent work, Justice. It's almost as though you figured it out by yourself. Well, I'm just glad I was the one who said it.
But wait! The value of the chips may be different, but that changes nothing!
It does. Indeed, the victim did have the larger number of chips still.
Exactly. If the small chips are 1,000 points and the large chips are 100, let's do a little math. Add up the points for each side of the table.
The victim, Mr. Smith, had 2,900 points, and the defendant had 4,100 points.
Well now. It seems that Mr. Wright was winning that night after all.
That's impossible!
My client had even less reason to kill the victim. After all, he was winning!
Yeah!
The game wouldn't even ended anyway. Now, Miss Orly, you must have known the true value of the chips. Since you were there at the scene of the crime, weren't you?
Eek!
Catch. Is there a lobster in there? Doesn't seem like borscht to me.
Order! It appears our defendant has lost his motive, and Mr. Wright's supposed defeat never happened. We must now ask ourselves whether we can trust the... Excuse me? What is it, Miss Orly?
I did not want to be saying this, but actually, you see,
See what, Miss Orly? What do we see?
in the last hand, there was cheat.
Cheat? You don't mean a trick?
Oh, wait. Or do you mean a scam?
They're all the same thing. Yes, there was cheating last hand. That is why game ends with chips as they are. Great, just great. First we have lying, now cheating. Well, this case certainly has taken a turn. For the interesting.
Witness, you will please testify to the court and tell us about this cheating in the final hand.
Right then, the final hand, you say. The cheating. Last hand, both men had full house. There is 4 of each card in deck from ace to king. If you look at both men's hands, cheat is more obvious. The next moment, game becomes argument. Defendant's trick was exposed. He took a bottle in his hand. Poor Mr. Smith. Poor Mr. Smith? What's so wrong with him? Miss Orly, why did you not tell the court about this from the very beginning? Because no one ever does. I thought I smelled a cover up here. Well, folks, it's time to throw back the covers.
A full house is a very high-scoring hand. Not easy to make in my experience.
That alone is enough to suspect less than scrupulous tactics.
Mr. Gavin, what's a full house?
Lawyers these days, you don't know your poker?
I can't say this bodes well for your case or career.
What is this, some kind of secret court poker ring? Justice. You know the terms 1 pair, 2 pair, and 3 of a kind, yes? Yeah, no problem. 2 cards with the same number makes a pair, and 3 makes a 3 of a kind. Good. Now picture a hand with 1 pair and 1 3 of a kind. Well, that's a full house. But because the way the cards were displayed, I kind of messed that one up earlier. That doesn't sound very easy to make, does it?
You can see each player's hand in this photo.
Wow, they both have full houses.
We forget there's an easy way to make a full house and go undefeated for 7 years. You cheat.
The defense may cross-examine the witness.
He did cheat in the last hand. That still leaves one important question. Mr. Wright lost that hand. Who's ever heard of a professional common losing when they cheat? So essentially, they're saying the other guy cheated, Mr. Shady Smith. So the Phoenix got annoyed and bopped him over the head because of his reputation? Is that what they're aiming at now? The final hand testimony will begin. Next time, of course, on Apollo Justice, Ace Attorney. We got this far, and I've only messed up the cards once. Wahaha. Let's continue on and get to the bottom of this gambling. Gambling with one's life, it seems. And you know what happens when you get guilty here. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.